It was supposed to be our first peaceful Thanksgiving. But the moment I read that note, I knew someone was still breaking children in this house. Messy. That was always the word. Not chaotic, not loud, messy. The kind of mess that comes with too many unspoken things clinging to every chair, every fork, every bite of overcooked turkey. For 5 years, I stayed away. No calls. No cards.
No visits.
Not since that night. And then 3 weeks ago, my mother called. The ringtone still made me flinch. It lit up my phone while I was folding Ryan's laundry, socks in one hand, 1,000 memories slamming into me with the other. I almost didn't pick up, but I did.
Hi, sweetheart, she said. Soft.
Careful. Like the word might break if she held it too tightly. I was thinking this year, maybe we could try again. For Thanksgiving. For Ryan. I said nothing at first. Just listened to the background noise, the distant clatter of dishes, the muffled hum of her TV. I could picture her sitting on the kitchen stool, curling the phone cord around her finger like she used to do when calling my teachers to make excuses. And then she added, "Let's put the past behind us.
Come home. Let's be a family again."
Home. It's a funny word, isn't it? It's supposed to mean comfort, safety. But for me, home was where things were buried, beneath the rugs, behind the locked drawers, inside sealed boxes no one dared open. But I said yes.
I don't know why.
Maybe because I wanted to believe her. Maybe because Ryan deserves better than silence and half-truths. We drove 3 hours. Ryan chattered the whole way. About his science project, about how he hoped they'd have pie, about how cool it was that he'd finally get to see Grandma's house. He didn't know that I hadn't set foot in that house since he was 4. The moment we turned onto the street, something in me clenched. The trees still bent the same way over the sidewalk. The cracked pavement still had the stain from the 4th of July fireworks that exploded wrong. And there it was, the house. White paint peeling at the corners. Fake pumpkins on the porch steps. A wooden sign above the door that read, "Bless this mess." I almost laughed. The front door opened before I could knock. And there she was. My mother. Older. Paler. But still with that same carefully arranged smile that made it impossible to tell whether she was thrilled or terrified. "Jenna," she breathed. "You came." She pulled me into a hug. Too long. Too tight. Like she could erase 5 years with pressure. I stiffened, then let go first. "Ryan," she gasped. "My goodness. Look at you." He beamed. "Kids are forgiving like that. They don't carry shadows the way adults do. Not yet." Inside, the house smelled like roasted turkey and cinnamon potpourri. Everything was exactly as I remembered. Same photos on the mantel, except one was missing. Same antique clock that always ran 5 minutes low. Same tension hiding in the corners, disguised as nostalgia. Megan was there, of course. My younger sister. Perfect Megan. She acted like I'd been gone for 5 minutes instead of 5 years. "Finally made it," she grinned, handing me a wine glass. "You look less tired than I expected." I smiled.
Thin.
Practice. Polite. The living room was buzzing with movement. Kids running. Candles flickering. The old record player wheezing out Bing Crosby like a lullaby for liars. Everything looked picture perfect, but felt off. I sat near the fireplace, wine in hand, watching Ryan play with his cousins. He was laughing. Really laughing. And I told myself, maybe this was worth it. Maybe they'd changed. Maybe I'd been wrong. I let my guard drop. And that was my first mistake. "Mom, someone gave me this." I don't think it was a game. Dessert had just been served. The room was sticky with warmth, cinnamon, nutmeg, the rich, buttery sweetness of pecan pie. Everyone had that look, the post-meal glow, wine-warm cheeks, and artificial ease that always followed a big family meal where no one said what they really meant. I was halfway through my first bite when I felt it, a tug. Gentle. Persistent. Ryan's fingers curled around my sweater sleeve. I turned. He was standing right next to me, so close I could smell the faint scent of soap in his hair. But his face was wrong. Not tearful. Not angry. Just scared. That kind of quiet fear kids have when they don't even know how to name what they're feeling. "Hey," I whispered, lowering my fork. "What's going on, sweetheart?" He didn't answer. Instead, he looked over his shoulder. Not dramatically, not nervously, just one cautious glance. Then he slipped something into my hand. A crumpled piece of paper. Small enough to fit in a palm. Soft at the edges. Folded over twice, like it had been hidden. I opened it. It was written in blue ink, rushed handwriting. Uneven letters, like they'd been scratched down quickly or shakily. "She's not safe here." He still does it. That's
all.
7 words. And everything inside me stopped. Not slowed.
Stopped.
My stomach sank like someone had dropped a stone in it. My skin felt cold, but my cheeks burned. I read it again, hoping it would rearrange itself into something less horrifying. But it didn't. "She's not safe here." He still does it. I heard laughter behind me. Someone, I think Megan, snorting at her own joke. A spoon clinked against a dish. My mother's voice floated through the air, bragging about how she used oat milk in the whipped cream. The world kept going, utterly unaware that something had just cracked wide open. I looked at Ryan. His lower lip trembled, just slightly. I whispered, "Who gave this to you?" He looked down at the floor, then back at me. "I don't know," he said quietly. "A kid I don't know. They said to give it to my mom. That it was really, really important." I folded the paper shut, slowly. And for a moment I didn't know what to do. Stand up? Confront someone? But who? There were 10 people in that room. Family. Friends. Neighbors. People I'd hugged earlier. People who'd clinked glasses and said, "It's so good to have you home." And somewhere among them, someone had a secret. Someone still had a hand in something unspeakable. And someone else knew and couldn't say it out loud. I squeezed Ryan's hand. He didn't pull away. The air felt heavier now. Like it knew. Like it had been waiting for this moment to arrive. And I had no idea what came next. But I knew one thing with complete, icy clarity. This wasn't just a family dinner anymore. This was a warning. It was happening again. And this time, I had a choice. The note in my hand burned like fire. Not literally, of course, but in that deep cellular way. The kind of fire that doesn't destroy what's in front of you, but what's buried underneath. My brain wouldn't stay still. It kept flickering, not just on what the note said, but what it meant. Not just what Ryan had handed me, but what it dragged up from inside me. Memories I'd packed away so tightly I forgot where I left them. Until now. Until one sentence, 7 words, unraveled everything I thought I'd survived. "She's not safe here." He still does it. And suddenly I was 11 again. In the same house. With the same smell of roasted turkey and cinnamon candles. The same hallway where the floor creaked if you stepped on it just wrong. The same man who used to rest his hand on my shoulder just a little too long. Greg. My uncle by marriage. Tall, smiling, always with a joke that felt harmless to everyone but me. The first time it happened, I didn't even have words for it. Just a sinking feeling in my stomach. A mix of confusion and fear and the certainty that something wasn't right. But when you're a kid, you don't always get to define the lines. Adults do. And they redraw them when it's convenient. When I told my mom, her face didn't even shift.
She didn't gasp.
Didn't cry. She said, "Don't make up stories, Jenna. That's your uncle." Like that was supposed to mean something. Like blood ties were stronger than truth. Like being part of the family automatically made him safe. So I stopped talking. Greg kept coming back every holiday with his red wine breath and booming laugh. He hugged everyone just a little too tight. Everyone smiled. And I counted the minutes until it was over. I left home the day I turned 18. Didn't say goodbye. Didn't leave a note. Didn't look back. I told myself that silence was survival. That forgetting was healing. That the best way to stay safe was to disappear, even if it meant disappearing from the people who were supposed to love me. And for the most part, it worked. I built a new life. I got therapy. I made peace with the idea that justice doesn't always come with handcuffs or courtroom apologies. Sometimes justice is just distance.
But now,
Now, I was holding a crumpled note in my hand, and my son was looking up at me like I was the one who could make sense of something awful. And it was happening again. That quiet horror no one else could see. That moment when a child doesn't have the words, but knows enough to be afraid. This time, though, I wasn't 11. This time, I wasn't the one being asked to stay quiet. This time, I had a choice. To bury it again, or to do something. I looked at Ryan, his small hand still wrapped around mine.
no.
No more silence. No more pretending. No more sealing things in boxes and calling that healing. I took a deep breath. And I knew what I had to do. He raised his glass and smiled. Like nothing ever happened. Like I didn't remember. I don't remember exactly how I got Ryan to the car. Just that my hands were shaking so badly, I struggled to fit the key in the ignition. Ryan climbed into the back seat without a word, eyes still locked on the house, as if waiting for me to do the right thing. I locked the doors.
Checked them 3 times.
Then turned back. And what gutted me most wasn't the truth on that.
Note.
It was that the party was still going, like nothing had happened. Inside the living room, Greg was telling a joke. Something about a vacuum cleaner and a dog. Laughter exploded. My mom was whispering with my aunt. A kid broke a glass and someone shouted, "It's okay." Music played again, one of those old songs I used to love. Now it sounded like background noise in a horror film. I walked in.
Slowly.
Each step like wading through molasses in a nightmare. Greg saw me first. He raised his glass in my direction. Smiled. That same familiar smile. Polite. Serene.
Hollow.
Like nothing ever happened. Like I didn't remember. Like I hadn't once been the 11-year-old girl shaking in the laundry room. I didn't speak to Greg.
Didn't look at him again.
I walked straight to my mother. Placed the crumpled note on her plate, right beside the half-eaten slice of pumpkin pie. She glanced down.
Frowned.
Picked it up.
Read.
Then, like she had rehearsed this moment 100 times, she folded the note and said, with the calm of someone commenting on the weather, "Jenna, not this again." I wasn't surprised. I wasn't hurt. Just tired. "It's not me," I said. "It's another kid. A kid who gave this to Ryan and asked him to give it to me."
She paused.
Then shook her head. "Maybe it's a prank. You know how kids are." "You think a 9-year-old wrote this?" She didn't answer. Greg was still at the table, swirling his wine, silent. Just watching me, like he was measuring how far I'd go this time. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't stage a scene like they once said I did. I stood tall. My voice even, steady. "If I called the police right now, what would you say?" The room stopped laughing. Greg looked up. A flush crept along his neck, but his smile didn't falter. My mom glanced around, as if the neighbors might hear. "You can't do that. Not on a holiday," she whispered. "Jenna, please. This isn't the time." "Not the time." I raised an eyebrow. Then when Greg stood, folded his napkin, headed toward the hallway like a man leaving a stage after his final line. I turned back to my mother for the last time. "You always said I was imagining things. But it's not just me anymore, is it?" She didn't respond. I nodded. "I don't need you to believe me. I just need you to remember, this time I won't stay quiet." Then I walked away, leaving behind the wine, the roast, the music, and the faces beginning to realize I was serious. Why now? Because this time, it's not just me. That night, the house was still. Not peaceful, just quiet in a way that didn't settle. Ryan had fallen asleep on the couch, curled into himself, his pillow tucked under one arm, the other hand still holding something, a corner of the note, wrinkled from the grip. I sat across from him, staring into the dark, the hum of the refrigerator the only sound anchoring me. The silence was loud. It echoed with everything I never said. I should have been shaking. I should have been scared. But I wasn't. What I felt was ready. So the next morning, after Ryan left for school and the sun was high enough to erase the shadows, I made the call. Non-emergency line, I told myself. I wasn't trying to make a scene.
I just wanted it documented.
Official. I gave the officer my name, my history, the note, the name of the man I remembered too well. I even offered my old case file. You might have it on record, I said, my voice steady. From 27 years ago. There was a pause on the line. The voice on the other end softened, just a little. We'll send someone out. Can you be home this afternoon? Yes, I said. I'll be here. The detective was younger than I expected.
Come.
He had a notepad, a kind face, and eyes that said he'd heard worse. Or thought he had. I walked him through everything. The party, the note, Ryan's exact words, what I'd seen in my mother's face, in Greg's silence, the history I never stopped carrying. He didn't promise anything. He didn't overreact. He just wrote, "We'll need to speak with your son," he said gently. "With your permission. Not now, just if the case moves forward." I nodded. He's 9. He didn't see anything. Just delivered the note. That may be enough, he said, especially if it wasn't addressed to him. I offered tea. He declined. 15 minutes later, he was gone. But something had shifted. The silence, the heavy, rotting silence I'd carried like a second spine, had started to crack. A week passed. No updates. No knocks at the door. Just waiting. Then one evening just after dinner, I got a text. From my mother. Just one sentence. "You've destroyed this family." For what? I stared at it for a long time. Not because I didn't know what to say, but because, for the first time in decades, I didn't feel the need to explain. No anger. No guilt. Just a kind of clarity I had never known I could hold. I didn't respond. Instead, I looked at Ryan, who was quietly drawing at the kitchen table, safe in his little world of dinosaurs and spaceships. I thought about how his hand felt in mine when he gave me that note. I remembered the way he whispered, "Mom, I don't think it's a game." I remembered the tremble I couldn't hear, but felt, running through his fingers. And I knew I had done the right thing. I used to think silence was survival, that keeping it buried kept me strong. But I had mistaken fear for strength. And now I knew better. Sometimes doing the right thing doesn't feel brave. It just feels necessary. And for once, I didn't care who it broke. Because it was never supposed to be whole in the first place. Last Thanksgiving, I came home to heal. This year, I stayed away to protect. Greg was officially under investigation 2 weeks later. It didn't happen with sirens or headlines.
No cameras. No scouting.
Just 2 unmarked cars pulling into my parents' driveway on a quiet Wednesday morning. The neighbors probably thought it was a wellness check. It wasn't. One of the kids from the Thanksgiving dinner spoke up. Not Ryan, someone else. A little girl. A friend of a cousin's. She told her school counselor something. Confusing, they said. And that counselor did what no one else had ever done when I was 11. They listened. And then they called the police. When they searched Greg's house, they found notebooks, journals, handwritten things, disgusting things, dated, labeled, stories, he called them. But they weren't fiction. Some matched things I remembered. Some matched things no child should ever go through. They also found evidence linked to a case in the early 2000s, a case that had mysteriously been closed. Not anymore. I didn't celebrate. I didn't text my mom. I didn't even tell Ryan. Because I knew that wasn't the end. Not really. The family splintered like wood under pressure. My mother, she picked her side without flinching. Said it was a mistake. That Greg was confused. That he needed help, not punishment. And when I didn't respond, she sent me one last message. If you loved this family, you wouldn't destroy it. I didn't destroy anything. I just stopped pretending it wasn't already broken. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. I changed my number. Changed our address. Ryan started at a new school 3 counties away. He made 2 friends the first week. One of them has a pet lizard, which instantly earned lifelong loyalty. He sleeps better now. Smiles more. Sometimes he still wakes up and checks if I'm in the next room. But mostly he's just a kid again. This year Thanksgiving was quiet. Just the two of us. I made pumpkin pie from scratch, even though I knew Ryan wouldn't eat more than 3 bites. He made place cards out of construction paper and put them at opposite ends of the table like we were hosting royalty. I lit 2 candles and played old Motown records.
No terki.
No long speeches. No forced smiles or secondhand shame. Just peace. Halfway through dessert, Ryan burst out laughing at a joke he made up that made absolutely no sense. He leaned back in his chair, mouth sticky with whipped cream, and said, "Mom, this is the best Thanksgiving ever." I didn't cry. I just nodded, smiling through something that felt suspiciously like relief. And as I cleared the plates, as the music hummed through the small kitchen of our new apartment, I realized this was the first time in my life I felt like the house I lived in was mine. Not a cage. Not a stage. Just home. Silence doesn't protect the broken. It only shelters the ones who break them. I didn't raise my voice. I raised the truth. If this story reminded you of a pain once buried, or someone you once had to protect in silence, leave a comment. You're not alone. If you believe the truth deserves to be heard, hit like. Every like is a voice. A moment of empathy. And if you want to walk alongside stories like this, hit subscribe. Not everyone gets to speak, but you can be the one who listens. Thank you for being here.
Truly.